It's showtime, Sunday morning, NFL Week 11. You are here with the Fantasy Football Bud podcast with myself, the Commish, Cyclops 2020. We're going to have a great show. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, feeling good after an interesting week and of football in amongst other things.
Yeah.
But
we almost had to put you on injured reserve.
Yeah, basically am.
Yeah. Right. I'm good, man. Another fun Sunday. Looking forward to talk some football, some interesting developments going on. It's something I want to bring up. I thought would be fun. We'll talk about that in a second. But hey, it's football Sunday. What else could be good? I got a football team for the first time that's actually in contention for the playoffs. How exciting is that?
For the first time?
Ever?
For the first time in a long time, excuse me.
Oh, okay. Sounds like the Dolphins.
That's right.
So
it just feels like
not your fantasy team.
All right. No, so what we're going to do today, by the way, we're going to go through some streamers. We talked about on Tuesday who to pick up, who to drop. And today it comes down to who are we actually starting? Who are the people that, are some of the last minute fill-ins because of bye weeks, because of injuries. And we're going to help you. But more importantly, we're going to be taking your questions today. If anybody has any questions they want to get answered from the Buzz, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ. Keith, I'm very curious. What were you talking about? What do you have for us today?
I think this is actually a very interesting hot topic, and that is the announcement that Taysom Hill is now going to be starting at quarterback. The number one, obviously, starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And what's very interesting is in ESPN leagues, Taysom Hill is slotted as both a quarterback and a tight end. So for those people that were lucky enough to grab him, they can now start a quarterback, a full-on starting quarterback in their tight end position, giving what I would consider, it's obviously anyone would consider is an enormous advantage. The question is it a fair advantage? Now, it's interesting because, listen, we're all going to operate within the boundaries of what our league says is fair and equitable. I actually have him in 2 leagues. Actually, I have him in 3 leagues. And ironically, I'm going against him in another league.
Hold on one second, Keith. Hold on one second. Kenneth wants to chime in here. Kenneth, how are you today?
Hey, Kenneth.
Good. The reason why I was calling is I picked up Taysom Hill, and he's mentioned as both tight end and QB. How should I use them?
Okay, well, so what I would recommend, and sorry, Commish, is if you're in Yahoo, he's just a quarterback, which is But in ESPN, if you can slide in Taysom Hill as your tight end, well, he's tight end 1. You're talking about a guy that even if he has a horrible day at the office, is going to throw for 175, 200, maybe get a touchdown in there, rush another 8-10 times. If you can get that out of your tight end position, that is an absolute no-brainer. And the question that we're having here, is it fair? Because you're really starting 2 quarterbacks. And if your league is okay with it, it is. I just think it's a very interesting topic to talk about.
So first question is, Kenneth, which system are you using? Are you using ESPN or are you using a different?
I'm in an ESPN 12-team PPR.
Okay, so for ESPN, as we just talked about, Taysom Hill is an option at tight end. Most other formats have taken him off of that, and he is a QB. I've seen many posts this week on different fantasy football forums talking about just this specific question. Leagues that the commissioner came out and said, no, you can't use him as a tight end, even though we're an ESPN league, I'm not allowing it. People that have been kicked out of leagues because they've questioned it. All kinds of things across the gamut.
Before we continue with this discussion, I want to let Kenneth finish, and then let's continue with this Taysom Hill talk, because I think it's important that we talk about this and bring this up. Kenneth, do you have any other questions before we move on? But I mean, the answer to your question is yes. Start him at tight end.
The other question I have is, I do have Kellen Balaj in my flex spot, but my other options I do have Mike Williams, and I just picked up Giovanni Bernard. I'm trying to
You
figure
just
out
picked him up.
who I should start at that spot.
So I'll tell you, I love Balaj this week. I mean, the last 2 weeks alone.
We didn't know.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why. And half-point PPRs in the last 2 weeks, he's put up 14 and 15 points. So he is clearly the guy there. It's just him and Josh Kelly, who has really been fading, and Traymon Pope, who gets a couple grabs, a couple carries here and there. They're going against the Jets, and you're gonna see Kalen Balaj get a minimum, most likely, of 20 touches this week against a really bad Jets team. Gio Bernard's a nice play. He hasn't done a lot with his opportunities, and they're really starting to use a lot of Samaje Perine there as well. And it's not I forget who's Cincinnati playing?
Washington,
and who
it's
has
actually
a good front seven.
It's a good matchup.
Yeah, it is. But I still really like Balaj much better just because of what he's doing. And he's really not competing much with anybody there in the
So
matchup.
hold on, let's talk about this for a second, because you said Bernard hasn't taken advantage. Last week he played against arguably the best rush defense in the league in Pittsburgh. Okay, so if you want to consider that game, I don't know if I would. Before that, he had a bye week. Before that, he played against Tennessee, scored 21 points. Before that, played against Cleveland, scored 18 points. So he goes up against a Washington team who actually last week gave up 27 points to running backs. The week before against the Giants, Washington gave up 26 points against running backs.
Right. And I understand he got points, but my point is he's incredibly touchdown dependent. And if you want to live that way, because if you look at what he's done, his yards per carry is not very good. He went 8 carries for 15 yards. He did get the touchdown against Indy. That's a tough defense. I get it. But against Cleveland, he went 13 carries for 37 yards.
And 5 catches for 59 yards.
I understand. He's getting some grabs, but he's not getting a ton of grabs either. Hold on a second. Five catches, but against Cleveland, Tennessee, he had 3 catches. Against Indy, 3 catches. So, yeah, he's put up some points. I'm not saying he hasn't. He's been getting touchdowns, but I would not rather live on touchdown dependency. I'd rather go with the guy that's giving you 20 carries a game, averaging almost 100 yards a game, and the catches.
So we know you love Balaj this week.
See this?
Okay.
See this, Keith?
What is that?
This is yours.
The typical bet.
This is yours if Kalen Balaj has more points today than Giovanni Bernard.
No, how much is that?
It's $1.
So, well, can I make payments?
Yes, you can.
Done. Bernard versus Balaj. Done.
That's right.
Love it. We'll see.
So just so you know, Washington, and it seems like they're better. Like you've seen some games where you feel like the defense is better. They're 30th against the rush and 20th against the pass. That sets up both nice for Bernard on both ends.
Right. That's true.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. So let's get back to this Taysom Hill thing.
We do have another question if you want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
That first. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Get to the question, and I'll get back to Taysom Hill.
Okay, yeah, because we have plenty of time to talk about that. Hey guys, it's from Big Greens. Thielen, McLaurin, or Deontay Johnson, full point PPR. Who do you go with? I assume you need one of the 3 here. I am probably going with. Well, this is a tough one. McLaurin may have a good day. They're going against Cincinnati, as we were just talking about. Pittsburgh has. Yeah.
Well,
the Jaguars.
Right. But
I don't know. This is a tough one. These are all good.
Thielen looked
Thielen's
terrible,
got the matchup though.
Although he did get a lot of points. So let's talk about cornerback matchups for a second. We know that Terry McLaurin is going up against Cincinnati, but in particular William Jackson.
Right.
William Jackson is an okay cornerback. In this case, the advantage between wide receiver and cornerback is to Terry McLaurin. I am leaning toward McLaurin in this case. Is it just starting one out of all of them?
Good problem to have.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't seen that yet, but I'm assuming let's go with that for now.
Okay, and then looking at the cornerback matchups for Deontay Johnson, he's got Sidney Jones, and I know it's Jacksonville, but Sidney Jones is a very good cornerback. We also are dealing with the three-headed monster with Claypool and Juju, and we know that Claypool's going up against Trey Herndon and Juju against DJ Hayden. So those are the better matchups. The Juju matchup and the Claypool matchups are better than the Deontay Johnson matchup. So again, it's hard. There's only so many things that we can predict, and a lot of times we have to look at what the stats are telling us. So it's a tough one. I like McLaurin here, but I'm sorry. You know what? I just looked at this. The matchup with Adam Thielen. He's going to be matched up most likely. This is not an automatic, but with Anthony Brown at Dallas. And wow, that
matchup is incredible for Thielen.
Tasty.
Yeah,
that is a huge advantage to Adam Thielen. So in this case, I'm going to actually lean toward Adam Thielen.
Those are three pretty good
I just love
wide receivers. I think people would be happy to have those three wide receivers as their starters on their team, let alone only have to pick one.
Right, exactly. Agreed.
So right now I have him ranked as 6 today, Adam Thielen. So, and then I actually have McLaurin 7th, but I would go with Thielen over McLaurin.
And I honestly think that with Andy Dalton now having a couple games under his belt, coming back, and all those toys at his fingertips with Lamb and Cooper and Gallup and Schultz, that they're going to be able to put up some points. So Minnesota's going to have to be scoring and throwing.
So keep also in mind, Dallas has switched around their offensive line. Zach Martin's going to be starting at right tackle today, which is a new position for him after 7 years there. They're benching their right tackle who started the first part of the season. So they're moving their offensive line around, so that could be good or bad. We'll see. So we'll see how the Dallas offense and the running game adapt to that.
So we have an interesting question, or really more of a comment. Someone that looks like he's a commissioner. Let's show this comment. And wait, did I unshow it? Let's show it. And he is clear. Is it showing?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's clearly, and this is Bart, clearly adamantly opposed to Taysom Hill as a tight end, being slotted in as a tight end with that designation, and feels like, takes away a little bit of the fun for fantasy football. He's also saying that make tight end part of the wide receiver or flex, which in most of the leagues that I'm in, tight end is a part of that wide receiver, running back, flex position. If I'm reading that right, it sounds like in your league that might not be the case. As a commissioner, I'd say bring that up at your next rules meeting for next year, because I think as a flex, tight end is an obvious addition.
I don't know if he's saying that, or if he's saying that instead of having a separate tight end slot, you make it a flex.
Oh, just a flex.
So if you wanted to start a tight end, if you have Kelsey, you can start him. If you don't, you can start Claypool. And you know what? There's a lot of merit to that. I know at the fantasy football meeting that we had last year and the year before, I talked about getting rid of kickers. And I agree. If we're talking about making fantasy football fun, we can't say, well, we're trying to emulate what the NFL does. We're trying to make it fun. Yes, there's probably only 7 good tight ends, and there's probably 32 kickers that could be used on any given Sunday. So quite frankly, I would agree. I have no problem getting rid of tight end.
Something, and getting rid of kicker, or do you like? That's an interesting question. Do you like his idea? Because there's generally maybe 6, maybe 7 startable tight ends each week.
So
we're all the streaming.
2020, we're actually in a league that a tight end is just an option as wide receiver.
That's right.
So we do that, and it's certainly potentially time to talk about that, right? Tight end at one, it's evolved, and we've evolved in the NFL to a spot where
really, in a way.
Well, I mean, tight ends traditionally there only used to be a handful, and well, it still kind of is, but those guys would do really well. Then all of a sudden, tight ends became much more prominent, and now it's kind of fallen back.
Yeah,
is what it seems, right?
yeah. I think there's like a de-evolution, if you will. Maybe there's just not a
Yeah.
good usage of it. But the days of Brady with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, and just it's not something that's really quite prominent. It used to be more prominent. The days of Bavaro and Witten and all these guys. There were so many out there, but now I agree. Interesting concept. So anyway, that was my just one topic I thought very timely. Talking about what's going on with Taysom Hill, and is that something? How are leagues handling it? And I'm sure it's all over the place.
All right. We did have another question here. Hang on. We do have another question from Ryan, CEH, Balaj, or Damian Harris. Now, 2020, you don't need to answer this. We already know your answer.
Yep, damn
so
straight.
why don't you take this to start, Commish?
Actually, I have CEH ahead of the others in my rankings. I know that the Raiders right now are probably where they're ranked at 12th right now against the run. I just feel like there's more opportunity. I think there's a higher ceiling for points for CEH. I think all of these guys are going to get you points. The question is how many. Damian Harris is probably going to get you 100 yards, but he may not get a touchdown. Those are going to go to Rex Burkhead or Cam Newton. Kalen Balaj might get you yards, but I don't know if he's going to get you touchdowns. I think CEH, especially, I don't know if this is PPR or half PPR, but I think that the opportunity for receptions with CEH, you have a higher ceiling. So that's who I would go with.
Right. And also keep in mind, in New England, you have Sony Michel back off the IR. So you add another running back into the mix. So now you have White, Burkhead, Harris, Sony Michel, and Cam Newton, all as running backs in that mix. So you have to keep that in mind when you are talking about Harris. Although he has looked really good, you just never know from week to week with the coach, with Belichick there.
So who are you going with, Cyclops?
Out of these three, Balaj does have a really nice matchup against the Jets. I'm probably going with Balaj out of these three here.
Okay. Hey, Commish, you see this?
What is that, an IOU?
That's $1.
So I've got $1 on Bernard and $1 on CEH.
That's right. So I'm going to let you hedge your bet.
Are you writing
I'm going to either make $2 this week or get Starbucks next week.
You're going to be able to take your wife out to dinner at this rate. Jesus.
Twice.
Twice. All right. So I want to get back to this Taysom Hill discussion. And I'm glad you brought it up, Keith, because I think it's important. And I do want you to suspend any kind of prejudice you have because of having picked him up. And I'm doing the same. I wanted to pick him up. I wanted to trade you for him. You remember, and then as the news came out, I'm like, oh, there's no way that you're.
You were so funny about it. You were thinking I might not have heard that news. Hey, you want to maybe trade Taysom Hill for Adrian Peterson?
That news came out while the two of us were talking.
It literally, the alert happened, and then it came out, and then you called me, and I thought that was brilliant. That was beautiful.
No, I don't think so, but however you want to spin it, you can.
Oh, I don't care. It's all good. But I want to tell you something. Hold on a second. I have every reason to be totally unbiased about it. Like I said, in a league where I'm fighting for my playoff life because my team has been decimated by injury, the guy I'm going up against who's loaded got him. So I'm going up against that, and it's infuriating to me. But then at the same time, I'm starting him in 2 leagues at the tight end position. So
what I want to know, I want everyone out there, whoever's listening, I want to know how you feel about this as well. How do you feel about the idea of Taysom Hill being listed as both a tight end and a quarterback in a lot of, not just in ESPN, but a lot of the daily stream, a lot of the
DFS.
I'm sorry?
The DFSs?
Yeah, a lot of the DFSs have him as well as both a tight end and a quarterback. And we're talking about fairness. We're talking about whether or not it's fair. I know that in our league, we have always said that whatever the platform allows is what we go with. So in this case, fair or not, ESPN has decided to make him both a tight end and quarterback. Now, it's interesting in our league because we play a team quarterback. So not only can somebody start Taysom Hill as the team quarterback, but also as the tight end. They could actually, he's going to be getting points in both cases, which I find very interesting. But the question of fairness I want to talk about. Do you guys feel, aside from the fact that ESPN allows it, how do you feel about the fairness of it?
No, I do not think it's fair that quarterback is always, even a bad week,
but you're doing
the highest scoring position. But of course I'm doing it. That's not what he asked.
I know. I know.
So of course I'm going to do it. And so would you. You're just pissed off you didn't think of it. So the bottom line is it fair? Absolutely not. But if it's allowed, we're all going to push the legal limits as that we can of our league. And if the league took a vote and said no, I'd live and die by that. Is it fair? No, it's not. I very, very adamantly feel it's a very unfair advantage to start two quarterbacks when another team is starting one.
Well, it was very interesting today. It wasn't today, but it came out the other day, and it seems like Matthew Berry is the person at ESPN who is in charge of making that decision of whether or not he should be a tight end or whether or not he should be a quarterback. And he had tweeted this. He said, this was on the 16th. He said, in light of Breeze's news, Taysom Hill's been given QB eligibility effective immediately. He currently qualifies as a tight end. If Hill plays primarily at quarterback using a snap count data and our team sees that continuing, we reserve the right to remove his tight end eligibility.
Right.
Please note, we will never take away the eligibility midweek. If he starts the week with it, he keeps it all week. In other words, Hill starts this week with the tight end eligibility. He will have that all week through week 11, even if he is now is announced as a starting QB for New Orleans. So the point being that after Sunday,
it'll probably change.
Lose that tight end designation. Right. So let's talk about Taysom Hill, the quarterback, for a second. Is New Orleans making the wrong decision by making him the quarterback instead of Jameis Winston?
They basically came out and said, and you kind of knew this, they wanted to see if he's going to be a quarterback that can be utilized for the future. Winston is a backup, kind of like Teddy Bridgewater. They brought him in. And, I think this is a little bit of Sean Payton ego. I think it's a little bit of a combination of things. And then on Friday, Sean Payton came out and said, I didn't even name a starting QB for this week yet. Even though it had been reported that Taysom Hill was
it had been reported because there were leaks out of the camp. Somebody had been watching the camp, and they saw him taking snaps with the first team.
Right. So I think they want to. I imagine that it's going to be more of a split quarterback this week, not just Taysom Hill.
Well, let me give you some stats, by the way. Throughout Taysom Hill's career in the NFL, he is 10 for 18 for 205 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. In his senior year at BYU, which was in 2016, he threw 58%, 2,323 yards, 12 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, right? I mean, this is not the guy who's going to be drafted as your quarterback,
right? With
those kind of numbers. I can't wait to watch this game. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. I mean, fantasy football points aside, and I'm glad I'm not playing Keith this week. Because I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I agree that I don't think it's fair, but I agree with moving within the rules, the parameters of the rules. Hold on, we got a call coming in. Welcome to the Buzz. How are you, guy?
Hey, good. How are you? This is Ryan.
What's up, Ryan?
So I've got a couple questions. I'm in a 16-man league. I know it's really deep. So kind of a tough question. At the moment, I've got Josh Allen at quarterback. I've been loving it.
Right.
But it's pretty tough in the 16-man league, so I haven't had to get a backup quarterback until this week since the Bills are on a bye.
Right.
And my only options at the moment are Teddy Bridgewater, if he even plays.
Right.
Joe Flacco and Andy Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess at the beginning of the week on my waiver, I picked up Jameis, obviously, that's not panning out too well.
So let me ask you: Are the following guys also not are the following guys not available? Phillip Rivers, is he available?
No, the only quarterbacks are available are Flacco, Dalton, and what?
It's a 16-team league.
16,
so,
right?
Yeah.
And it's Flacco's the starter, not Darnold this week.
Yeah, Darnold, I believe, is out.
Okay.
He's not expected to play.
Okay.
Yeah. Flacco's last outing was 275 yards, I think 3 touchdowns, if I'm correct.
And
he goes against the Chargers,
who are very porous.
With a breakup secondary.
Yeah.
I don't know. Andy Dalton is playing against Minnesota, arguably one of the worst defenses in the league. Look, we all laugh at what's going on over in Dallas, but if we're looking strictly at quarterback, we know what Andy Dalton can do. We know what he's done. We know he's got tools with Cooper and Lamb. Quite frankly, I like Dalton in this case.
Yeah, it's a toss. I'll say this: Dalton, he was for years in Cincinnati. He would have a half a season of putting up good numbers, where he was very startable. But we've seen Flacco now do it with the Jets, as Cyclops just said. He now has all his tools there with Denzel Mims, Perryman, and Crowder. It's not a lot.
It's a rusty toolbox, I'll tell you.
It's a rusty toolbox, but at least he has. At one point, his best option was Braxton Berrios, so at least he's got all 3 starting receivers. I personally, it's a.
But you can't compare those receivers to what Andy Dalton has.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, Andy Dalton's also coming off of COVID, also coming off of a concussion, a reformatted offensive line. As much as Dalton would seem to be the play here, I think in this case I'm going to go with Flacco.
Right.
God help you.
You have one.
Yeah, right. God be with you. Right. Exactly. That's hilarious.
Not that I want to lose, but a loss wouldn't be the end of the world.
All right, good. At least you make it through. And
one more question for y'all.
Sure.
So at the flex in the same league, I've got 2 guys at the beginning of the year. It's supposed to be good. It's been a little frustrating in James Conner and Cooper Kupp. So I'm debating on them at the flex today. Tampa's defense, really good, but James Conner just has had 2 back-to-back weeks of really nothing. And so I'm a little worried about James Conner going forward.
Well, let me tell you about the Cooper Kupp matchup today. We know that it's Tampa Bay, and people might say because of their defense is so good, don't even think about starting Cooper Kupp. But in the slot, he most likely is going to be matched up against Sean Murphy-Bunting. And Sean Murphy-Bunting is actually one of the worst tight ends in the league. And that too, unless they do a lot of switching, it's not guaranteed written in stone, but most likely based on what the matchups look like and who covers in the slot in Tampa Bay, it's going to be Sean Murphy-Bunting. And if that's the case, I think Cooper Kupp could be in for a very good day. It might be like it was in Miami, where you're going to see a lot of targets, but not necessarily touchdowns. But I do like Cooper Kupp today.
Does Cooper Kupp have the most targets in the league this year?
Sorry.
Well, that one game did like 30% of them. We had 20 against Miami. But they still have targets.
So what was the other question, Ryan?
That was the other question. It's
right.
a toss-up between James Conner and Cooper Kupp at my flex.
Do you guys agree with Kupp, or do you think you go with Conner? A lot of times, it's hard to bench a running back, right? Especially somebody with Conner's pedigree.
It's hard. The Steelers have the Jags, so that's definitely a little bit more enticing. But honestly, I think I'd probably go with Kupp here. I think the Rams, it's good. They're going against Tampa. And I always tend to go running back.
Me too.
When it's a decision between running back and wide receiver, because they're generally going to get potentially a better look at a touchdown. And I'm talking myself into Conner. I think I'm going with Conner.
Yeah, and I'm going with Conner. Ronald, and I agree with you with Seth Bunting, which, by the way, he's a cornerback. is a nice matchup for Cup. Reynolds is really starting to emerge in that offense as well. There's a lot of mouths to feed there. So, and again, running back over wide out if it's a pick 'em situation for me. So,
Right.
I would go Connor.
Okay,
All right, Ryan.
Ryan, I was asked to ask if Alex Smith was available at quarterback. I know you said there was only those three, so I'm assuming not.
No, yeah, he's already been picked up.
Okay.
16-team league, so yeah, that makes sense.
Well, the waiver wire really screwed me over, picking up Jameis and then hearing that he's not going to start.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine a 16-team league, you could almost have no quarterbacks to pick up if someone wanted to stash a few.
Now, Ryan, keep in mind the inactives are going to come out any moment now. We'll find out whether or not Teddy. I did it again. Called him Teddy Bridgewater again.
Get your head out of the gutter.
I don't know what I'm thinking about.
Get your head out of the gutter.
We will know whether or not Teddy Bridgewater is active today. And we're going to find that out in a few minutes. So definitely keep listening.
I think he's playing today.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
All right, Commish, why don't we get to our streamers?
Well,
I think we kind of went over them all.
Yeah, no, I kind of want to finish this Taysom Hill thing. We were talking about whether or not he would be a good quarterback to start, and I guess we can talk about streamers too. If you have Taysom Hill and you want to pick him up, and you want to play him as quarterback, I think you're doing the wrong thing. If you pick him up and you want to start him in your tight end slot, then absolutely that's where you start him. But he is not going to get you typical quarterback points. But what he is also going to do is get you better than your typical tight end points, possibly. But keep in mind, right, 175 yards, which was the example that you had used, Keith, earlier, as a potential or possible amount of yards that Taysom Hill would get, that's only 7 points in most leagues, right? 25 yards is 1 point.
But then add that passing touchdown on there as well.
Right. If you add the 4 points to that, now you're looking at somebody who's got a higher level tight end.
And then another 50 rushing yards or something.
So the question is, here's the question that I'm proposing. If you have Kelsey,
right,
are you starting Kelsey or are you starting Taysom Hill?
I'm still starting Taysom Hill. I'm going 2 quarterbacks all day.
So I'm in on that one too for the dollar.
Right.
So you got us both on that. My question is, will there be how many tight ends will outscore Taysom Hill today?
Right.
With him at quarterback in the tight end position. And keep in mind, this is only an ESPN league situation. It's not in Yahoo. It's not. They've all taken
exactly only ESPN. So again, a bad day for a quarterback, and this is a guy making his first start, but a bad day for a quarterback, 12, 13, 14 points. That's an above average day.
That's also you assuming that he's going to play the entire game. That you will not see Winston in at quarterback. And I have a feeling this is a total guess because I have nothing to go on, and it's going to be around a 50-50 timeshare.
It's tough to do that with quarterbacks because quarterbacking is a rhythm position. It's not like running backs or wideouts that are consistently brought in and out of series and in and out of the plays. I think with a quarterback, you put him and you leave him, and unless it's like
it could be a first half, second half, it could be something we don't know. It could be drive by drive.
Struggles that'll happen. And you know what? Right. And you said something about Sean Payton. The guy does happen to have a brilliant offensive mind, and he's got incredible tools to work Taysom Hill in, dumping off to Kamara, short slots to Emmanuel. I don't think you're going to see a lot of deep balls to Michael Thomas today, but I think Payton's going to put together a hell of a game plan with you're going to see some wildcat, a lot of bootlegs, a lot of rollouts, a lot of trickery. And I think Taysom Hill, you know what I didn't know, Commish, you always do phenomenal data legwork. The knock on Winston is 30 passing touchdowns, beautiful, but also 30 interceptions.
Right.
You know what? Taysom Hill's numbers from his senior year, those aren't too good. It was 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So I'm actually surprised at the move if he's got the propensity to make the mistake as well. But
that was also 7 years ago. I mean, he's how old? 30? It's 8 years ago. I mean,
in his NFL career, he has 1 interceptions and no passing touchdowns, apparently.
By the way,
he's also been playing behind Drew Brees.
Some of the inactives have been starting to drizzle in here. Sony Michel is inactive today. So going back to the Damian Harris, he's going to get the bulk of the carries, but the question is, will Burkhead be scavenging those touchdowns along with Cam Newton on the goal line?
Yep.
Did they say anything about Titty yet?
No, nothing yet about titties. We have another question. Flex position, Adrian Peterson or Hines. I actually think they're going to get the same exact amount of points today. Adrian Peterson is starting for the Lions because of concussion for DeAndre Swift, but it has already been reported that he is going to be sharing time with Kerryon Johnson. We know on a week-to-week basis that Hines will be sharing with Jonathan Taylor and with Wilkins. So, quite frankly, this is a toss-up. I like Peterson on the goal line, obviously. He is touchdown dependent, but those are a nice 6 points that you can get every time the Lions have the ball near the goal line. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Again, I think this is a coin flip toss-up. I think they're going to get about the same amount of points.
Yeah, I think it's,
and it's Peterson, standard, by the way, standard league. We're not talking about PPR with Hines. So
it's a standard league. Standard league. Yep. So
you got to go with Peterson, in my opinion.
Yeah, I probably go with Peterson here. He's going to certainly, I would imagine, get 75% of the share here. With Kerryon Johnson, I think he had 1 carry last week. They've been talking about trying to get him more involved. Now Swift is out, so I think you'll see Peterson get the bulk here, which puts him just ahead of Hines for me, especially in a standard league. And although Hines did have 70 yards rushing last week, I think he had 15 carries for 70 yards. So he is getting more rushes. It's such a hard. This is a coin flip.
Right.
It's a complete coin flip.
Yeah. And Indy is playing. They're playing Green Bay. Is that right?
Indy's playing Green Bay in Indy.
In the dome. Nice dome. So I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines here. I don't care about the standard league. I love the points per reception, but Indy's got a great defense. But Aaron Rodgers, that offense is just looking so good. They're at full strength. I think they're going to be using a lot of Nyheim Hines out of the backfield, even without the points per catches. The yardage is going to be there, and I like Hines here better. He's just a talent. He's showing a lot more talent right now than I've seen out of an older, sluggish Adrian Peterson.
Okay, so before we get to some of our streamers, there's some more inactives, and another one that came across that is very important, not just for people who might be in IDP leagues, but Marshawn Lattimore was a last-minute inactive. The reason that matters is because he was the guy who was going to be matched up against Julio Jones today. If you have Julio Jones, good luck. If you have Jones, Ridley, Hurst, today's the day to start them. I think all 3 of those guys are going to have really big days. Marshawn Lattimore isn't the same Marshawn Lattimore that we have loved, but at the same time, he's probably better than anything else that they have there. So Lattimore inactive, Julio Jones is very happy right now.
And that's a nice bump for Matt Ryan as well.
That's absolutely true. And as more inactives come in, we'll be updating you guys on that. But let's start about streamers. Let's talk about running back streamers.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we basically, between the questions and us talking, have talked mostly about them. You got Bernard, right, who we talked about going against the Washington football team, and they're 30th against the rush and 20th against the pass.
Yep.
So I definitely put him in there if you can get him, if you don't already have him on a roster. We've heard some. You have a call coming in?
Yeah, hold on one second. Hey, Kenneth.
Hey, the reason why I'm calling is I just found out that you can add Sammy Watkins to the not active.
Yep.
Yes.
He is out.
All right, so Sammy Watkins is out.
And so is Titty. Titty just got announced that he has been deactivated.
Oh, really? Okay.
So no Titty.
I just came across it.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate that, Kenneth.
All right, later.
All right, right. So Teddy Bridgewater is also inactive, Keith?
Correct.
All right.
Wow.
So that helps answer that question. Do not start Teddy Bridgewater today.
No titty for you, Commish.
Okay, so you're liking Bernard today, Brad.
Like Bernard, obviously Peterson that we just talked about.
Right.
With everything going on now, and now without Teddy Bridgewater, that they're going to be trying to control. Right? Isn't it Detroit and Detroit's in Carolina? So I would imagine Detroit's going to be trying to run that ball and control that game. Then you have Harris, who we talked about, and now with Sony Michel, as you just said, was inactive, which takes at least one running back out of the backfield there. So I would imagine Harris is in line for a nice day. We talked about Hines, if you can get him. McKissick has been a nice stream for a few people over the past couple of weeks, getting a lot of catches out of the backfield with Alex Smith.
Actually, guys, Teddy Bridgewater is active, not inactive.
What?
Teddy Bridgewater is active. What did you see, Keith?
The Panthers deactivated. This came across 1 minute ago. The Panthers deactivated quarterback Teddy Bridgewater knee, and he will not play in Sunday's Week 11 contest against. And
we're getting conflicting reports here.
This is 1 minute ago from Fantasy Pros.
Okay.
That he was deactivated.
All right. Oh, after initially saying Teddy Bridgewater would be active, the Panthers decided to deactivate him. Okay, so this was a change. It just happened. They announced him as active, and then I guess they turned around and deactivated him.
That's right.
I apologize for any confusion there.
Continue, Cyclops, if you will.
Lazard is questionable. Okay. Basically that's about it. You do have Matt Breida, who is back off the IR now. Of course, we have Ahmed there, who looks to be the lead running back, but with Breida, they brought him in to be the running back, so you could see a little bit more of a split. So you don't necessarily want to be going too deep on either one of those guys if Breida is going to get some carries, but I still do like Ahmed in that backfield today compared to Breida.
I had a terrible decision I had to make the other night as my RB2 between Chase Edmonds and Ahmed.
Yeah, I know you were texting
Carson being injured, and chose Edmonds, and thank God he got a touchdown catch.
He did get that touchdown.
But I do expect Ahmed to have a very good day today.
Yeah, so that's about all I have. I mean, it's not super deep in the waivers or last-minute waivers for running backs this week.
All right, so let's jump to quarterbacks real quick. I talked about on Tuesday, we talked about some of the quarterbacks to pick up. One of the guys that seemed to be available, that if he's available today, grab him, and that's Phillip Rivers. He's had over 18 fantasy points in the past 3 or 4 games, and he's playing against Green Bay with Jair Alexander, who may or may not be starting. I don't know if he's listed as active or inactive today, but regardless, I think Phillip Rivers will have a good day in the Dome. Other guys to think about, Alex Smith, if he's available. I know you mentioned that a minute ago, Brad. Derek Carr against Kansas City. Normally you would think, the past few weeks, Derek Carr's looked terrible. But the last time he played the Chiefs, he threw for 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, and had 32 fantasy points. So proceed with caution because of the eggs that he's laid lately. But if he's available, it might be somebody to consider. Other guys to think about, Tagovailoa. I think Tua might have a good day today in Denver. And Kirk Cousins against Dallas. We talked about Adam Thielen, right, and the matchup that he's going to have. Well, Kirk Cousins is only taken in about 18% of the league, so he's probably available. And he's also a very good start this week. What about wide receivers?
So before hang on one second.
Brad.
So the you brought up Derek Carr, and there's been a lot brought up this week about the victory lap that the buses did around Arrowhead Stadium after the game that they beat Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what Andy Reid has in store for Derek Carr today.
You just stole my comment. I swear. I said I'm really interested to see how that game goes, because that is a proud franchise that is really upset about the one mar on their face right now.
Can you imagine what Mahomes is just licking his chops today?
Yeah, I'm scared for them. I'm scared, but then again, they got John Gruden. Little Chucky is going to pull out his bag of tricks as well. So I think it should be a great game. I agree, Cyclops. All right, talking about wide receivers, I'm going to follow in your footsteps. I agree with you about Phillip Rivers and who's going to catch Phillip Rivers' balls this week. Please don't touch that comment. And that's Michael Pittman, who has been doing really nicely, actually, starting to at least as he's come back. I talked about him last week, but he's still available in quite a few leagues. As of this morning, I see him. Well, shit, it's cut off. I can't tell, but it was a lot of leagues he's available. But Michael Pittman, 8 targets last week, very efficiently grabbed 7 of them, over 100 yards. Week before, 4 grabs for 56. And again, as Commish was talking about, Jair Alexander is not going to be there to patrol the backfield or the cornerback field in the secondary. So I do like Michael Pittman this week, and he is available. My next pickup this week is Jacoby Myers going against Houston, which is a very, very beatable secondary. And Jacoby Myers, over the last 4 weeks, has 37 targets over the last 4 weeks, which is quite a few. A lot of catches as well. 30 catches, excuse me, not 30, 25 catches on those targets. But last week, against a very tough Baltimore team, was pretty pedestrian. 5 grabs for 60, but the week before that, against beatable teams like the Jets, he went 12 for 169. So with Edelman out, he is clearly Cam Newton's favorite, if not only target in that offense. And they have a real nice secondary going up against in Houston.
Although he will be covered by Bradley Roby, who's okay. You know, he's average. He's not going to shut Myers down. Let's put it that way. I agree, Keith. I think that's a good start today.
Yeah. And then this, you guys are going to laugh, but all this guy does is demand targets and make a lot of catches. And it's Jamison Crowder, who, has been a little banged up, but listen to when he's in and he's starting over his last 4 games starting, 13 targets, 10 targets, 10 targets, 13 targets. So basically, and granted, that was without Perryman, and Mims obviously was hurt, and Darnold's out. But with Flacco in, he still had 13 targets with 7 grabs. So he's going against the Chargers. And I just love this game from a fantasy perspective because I think Herbert and Balaz are going to go ballistic. And I don't think Perine's going to do a phenomenal job running the ball. And Crowder is the number 1 guy in that offense. Not to mention, and I know you love talking about the matchups, Commish, Desmond King was just traded at the deadline. And that was arguably the Chargers' best corner. And that's their slot cover corner. And now they've got Tremon, whatever his last name is, going against him, an undrafted rookie covering the slot, and that's Crowder's ground. So I see a big day for Crowder. Again, lots of targets, 8, 9, 10 catches, who knows, with some yards and maybe a touchdown.
It's actually, well, Tavon Campbell is actually most likely going to cover Crowder today.
Right.
But he's only got a 56% rating, which is not very good.
Right.
Jamison Crowder has a 15% advantage, the difference between where Crowder's ranked and where his cornerback is ranked. So it is a good matchup today for Crowder.
You're like the Dan Fouts of fantasy football. I love it. You know those numbers. You and your little toys. But yeah, I what he said, I like those numbers too.
So okay, thank you for the wide receivers there, 2020. I'd like to go back to quarterbacks just for a second and bring up this quarterback just because it's a little side note. It's Tom Brady. Now a couple weeks ago we saw them play the Saints at night. Right, I think it was a Sunday night game, and they got annihilated. Brady looked terrible through interceptions, and I think they lost 41-3 or something like that.
Yeah,
Brady just looked bad. Now, so I was listening to some reports and different things this week, and Brady generally is in bed by 9 o'clock. Right, so he's got this regiment, and he's in bed by 9. We know he's 57. Whatever, and he needs to rest and all those kinds of things. That's great. So and now they play the Rams Monday night. So they have actually been practicing and having night practices just for Brady, just to make sure that his body doesn't fall asleep during the game like it did against New Orleans a few weeks ago. So keep an eye on this. I expect Brady to bounce back. It is the Rams, so it's a little tougher defense. But I think you'll see him, because they've made these adjustments. that he should be fine and don't go off his last primetime, nighttime matchup.
I love that. I love these little tidbits, little inside things. So that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Tight end, I'm not going to go into a lot of details on. I'll just say if you have any of these guys available, you're looking for a tight end. Obviously, Taysom Hill, we've gone through that ad nauseum. So if other than Taysom Hill, some of the guys you might consider picking up are possibly Logan Thomas with Washington, Dalton Schultz with Dallas. Even Richard Rodgers, I know they have Goddard, but Rodgers seems to have that chemistry with Wentz. And then possibly Gerald Everett. From a former Higbee owner, it's tough to accept the fact that Gerald Everett seems to be the better option.
Didn't Higbee have a pretty good week last week?
Pretty good compared to what he did before, but nothing spectacular. So that's what I have on tight end. Before we end the show, we just wanted to find out if anybody had any other questions. You can either give us a call at 772-800-BUZZ or go ahead and comment in Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and we'll answer your questions. So out of the games that are being played today, guys, we talked about the New Orleans game against the Falcons. You know, that's going to be not just because of the Taysom Hill issue, but because of the Falcons offense, the Falcons defense. The Saints have the number one rush defense. Is Todd Gurley going to be able to do anything? That's going to be a very fun game to watch today. Are there any others that are jumping out at you besides the Dolphins in Denver that you're looking forward to?
I think it's going to be interesting to see the high-powered Green Bay offense against the elite number one Indy defense and to see who prevails there.
I thought for sure, 2020, I thought for sure, 100% you were going to say Chargers and Jets.
I know, right? What you were talking about today are the Jets.
From a fantasy perspective,
yes, I'm very
excited about that.
You're just mad Balaj didn't stay with the Jets.
I also like his initials. They're KB, so I got a little affinity towards this guy.
Oh, okay. Now it's all coming in.
So I will say I did look up I did look up all the weather, if there was any weather issues today. The only one that I really saw was the Browns-Eagles. It's going to be a little chilly, not too chilly, but it does say 100% chance of rain, so we'll see how that if that does affect the game at all. Everything else looks good. There was 4 or 5 dome games, so obviously no effect there. The Dolphins going to Denver. It's a little chillier for them, but it's going to be around 50, so it's nice, and no other weather issues except the altitude.
I'm going to say a guy to keep your eye on this week on that Browns-Eagles game is Jalen Reagor. He's now back a couple games. Starting to get some looks from Wentz. So I think it'll be interesting. That's a possible guy. Keep your eye on. Might be a stash for next week.
Yeah. All right. So just to recap real quick, we have bets on the fact that I believe that both CEH and Bernard will have more points than Kalen Balaj. And I also believe that Travis Kelce will have more points than Taysom Hill today.
Well, wait, hold on a second. Why do I have to be 2 of your running backs? Pick one.
No, these were separate things that came up. They're not my running backs. I don't have those guys.
No, I'm not talking about your running backs. I mean,
these are questions that our fans came up and said, do I go with CEH or Balaj? And you're like, you got to go with Balaj. And I said, no, you go with CEH.
Okay, so I'm picking
then
Balaj.
The same question came about with Bernard, and you said, no, you got to go with Balaj. So
okay, fair enough. I have confidence in him.
All right. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions today. Tuesday, we're going to do something very interesting. Woulda, coulda, shoulda day. We're going to do a redraft on Tuesday, and we're going to compare the first round of the typical draft versus what a first round would look like for now if we were going to do a redraft. And that'll be interesting on Tuesday. We'll get into that as well as the outcome of the bet and the fact that I'll be $3 richer at that point. But we'll talk about that on Tuesday. Guys, any other last words?
That is it for me. Hope you guys have a good Sunday.
Happy football.
All right. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.